morning. We were talking about compression of babies' legs in a lot of carries. In a lot of carries, we have a very common pass where both tails cross under the baby's bum and then get tied in front. And a lot of people have noticed that in this position, these rails are really putting a lot of pressure on the baby's legs and it's impacting their circulation. And I want to talk about a couple of ways to avoid that. The first is simply to substitute a Lexi twist into any carry that would normally use that position. Instead of crossing under bum, we're going to cross, draw the arms up and cross as high over the back as possible. From here, we're going to twist and then draw the straps underneath the baby's leg. So you've got a very similar mechanism, but instead of having the pressure directly on the baby's leg, the pressure is is a little bit more spread out on their bum. That's one option. Another option is simply to reinforce the passes. So instead of bringing the passes straight across, you're going to spread out one pass. Gather it in one hand, nice and low, and then bring the baby's leg up and over it so that you don't lose tension. And do that on both sides. Again, you're spreading out sorry, I know that was terrible. You're spreading out the force instead of putting all of the pressure on one place. The other options that I wanted to mention, though, involve different carries altogether. Recently, I've been using a lot of half Jordans with a chest pass, candy cane chest belt. I wanted to demo that quickly. I'm going to start with the baby off-center in your wrap. By the way, I was using a size 4 before. This is a size 3. Baby goes off-center in your wrap. Short tail over the shoulder, long tail under the shoulder. The short tail is just long enough to stick between your legs. Now, this is the part where I think I do things a little bit differently from most people. Instead of just gathering this and taking it straight underneath his leg, when I bring it underneath his leg, I take a second to really spread it out underneath him so that it's almost like he's sitting in a hammock. I'm not looking at this as one pass that goes under the leg. I'm looking at this as creating a seat, which is why I don't find that this is an uneven carry. Then the tricky part of it, you do a shoulder flip, taking the material, passing it over your shoulder, spreading it out, and now creating the typical pocket seat that you would normally use in a carry like this. And then at this point, you've got a couple of options. I love candy cane, so I cross the passes and then wrap them up a couple of times. It's very odd seeing myself doing this in the mirror. Passing the long tail through the opposite shoulder, and then tying off. You'll see that on one side the baby does still have some pressure on his leg, but it's a lot less pressure than having that tail coming down underneath. And on the other side, he's got almost no pressure, so I really love this carry. And then I'm going to take a similar technique and modify a DRS2S double rebozo shoulder to shoulder using it. So this option, and I'm using a 7 for this. You do not need to use a 7 for this. A 6 is my ideal, and a 5 would also be great. So this one I'm starting him at the center. Again, one tail over, one tail under the shoulder. And again, I'm creating that same thing that I did last time. Instead of just doing a standard cross pass where I'm taking it under the leg, instead I'm going to find that inside rail. So this is the same rail that goes underneath his leg here. I'm really going to pull it up, spread it out, so that it's really up and in between us. Now, when I'm doing this, I always keep a hand on the baby because I really feel uncomfortable having him uncovered by fabric on the one side. So I do a little bit of tricky work here using my chin. I'm going to cross the passes, take the bottom tail that was between my legs, pass it over my shoulder, holding on to that. I can then tuck this one between my legs. Now keep this as high and tight as you possibly can. Spread that second pass. If possible, reversing the fabric. That's actually going to take a lot of the slack out. I can go over that later. And again, creating a nice seat. And then drawing the material up through your chest belt. Now, there are a couple of ways to finish this. A lot of people will bring it straight under the legs again, which I find is creating a little bit of the same problem. So what I like to do is actually bring it up in between us. And then finishing the pass that way. It's very comfortable for both of us. Maybe if I was using a bulkier wrap, it would create a little bit of a problem, but you saw that I'm using a natty linen with the other one, which is, I haven't had any problems with it. And that way, again, one leg, there's just no pressure. And the other leg, while there is pressure coming up, I find that it's a much more even distribution than when you bring the tails back and around. Those are my main tactics for dealing with this. I hope that gives some other people some ideas.